Hi everyone, my name is Lee Steele. I'm the community manager of the Turing Way, which is a collaborative guide to data science and research. And I'm so excited to be speaking at the Code for All Summit this year to tell you a little bit more about our project and also how you can get involved. So, first and foremost, what is the Turing Way? And what do I mean by a collaborative and open source guide on data science? So the Turing Way is first and foremost a book, a collaborative documentation writing project. But I want you to think of it almost like a small Wikipedia, written by researchers, practitioners, scientists, developers, folks who work with data that have aimed to collect best practices used not only within their fields, but more broadly, in order to come together to create a shared of global standards that are community-led and written by folks and for folks. And our aim as a project and the aim of the Turing Way more broadly is to support this diverse community, to support folks from all around the world who have an expertise in working with and around data to create these best practices that create the book itself. And in order to do so, we draw upon a lot of open source tools and ways of working and practices that mean that the Turing Way is hosted on GitHub. And we aim to document many aspects of the Turing Way community and the project more broadly within the repository. But with all of this being said, all of these things really mean to feed into a culture of collaboration and openness more broadly that aim to push for a cultural shift, not only within data science, but within open science more broadly, to make ultimately all of these fields reproducible, ethical, collaborative, and inclusive for everyone, and ultimately too easy not to do. So the Turing Way is hosted at the UK's National Institute for Data Science and Artificial Intelligence here in the UK, called the Alan Turing Institute. But it is important to note here that we are hosted by, but not exclusive to. The Turing Way would not be what it is today without the international cohort of collaborators and allies really all around the world that have come together to create the project as it is. So a little bit more about the Turing Way guides. What began as a single book on reproducibility back in 2018 with Dr. Kirsty Whitaker has now expanded into 6 guides more broadly. We couldn't talk about reproducibility without talking about project design, without talking about communication of research, about collaborative practices, and about the ethics involved in working with and around data. And these expansion really began with the growth of Dr. Malvika Sharon, who's now the co-lead of the project alongside Dr. Kirsty Whitaker. And many of our best practices within and around the community are documented in our community handbook, all of which are available on the Turing Way website. And we really think that it's this open source, this collaborative, this community-led way of working that has allowed the project to really grow so quickly over the course of a little bit more than 3 years. We now have more than 200 pages within the book. We also host resources, events, guidance, and templates and training that enable its use in different spaces and with different applications. But we also have more than 350 direct contributors, as well as thousands of users who both write and use the book every single day for their work. But if there's anything that I want you to take out of this short presentation, it's that all of the images that you've seen so far are available for download under a Creative Commons license, and they've been used over 12,000 times so far. And again, just speaking to the way in which openness has allowed the Turing Way to go beyond researchers and practitioners using data to educators, to community builders, to policymakers and researchers really all around the world, a few examples of which are cited here. But really the question is, how do you get involved? So on one hand, we really encourage you to check out the resource, take a look at best practices within your fields and in your domain that may be useful for you, whether it's working with data, whether it's documenting best practices or working collaboratively on GitHub. And in doing so, we encourage you to develop and share the resource, to update a chapter that looks interesting to you, to find those missing gaps and to fill them as you need, to share the resource with others, review and update it, as I had said, and share these best practices within your spaces of expertise. But I also really want to flag here that the work of maintenance, of fixing links and typos within the project is really, really important work, as is the work of our translation and localization team, which has really expanded the Turing Way into many other different domains and to cultures and languages that otherwise we wouldn't have been able to reach without their expertise. And I believe we have currently ongoing translations in Spanish, in Arabic, in Portuguese, French, Mandarin, Japanese, and I believe a new team that has just started with Turkish recently as well. And really thank you them for all of their work and really through all of these different ways of contributing to the Turing Way as a project and as a community. The Turing Way really wouldn't be what it is without all of these different ways of getting involved. And we really encourage you to get involved in any way you see fit, or even start a new idea as well. Also encourage you to check out one of our community events, collaboration cafes, co-working calls, and office hours. You can find more information on our website, but also join us at any time, and there's no signups needed at any point. Thanks so much to our community of contributors and users, and we hope you'll join us in a community call, and we hope that we'll be able to see you in one of these spaces sometime soon. Thanks again to the Turing Way core team, to the community, to contributors, collaborators, along with a few links here to join us on Twitter, on Slack, to subscribe to our newsletter or get involved in the GitHub repository. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we hope you have a great rest of your Code for All Summit.